What's up? What's going on? What's good? The Boxing Source checking in here, and I wanted to talk about a topic that has been kind of like going on within the boxing circles over the past couple of weeks, and that is in reference to Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Now, of course, we could go back to November 20th over at the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Terence Crawford was able to defend the WBO welterweight title with a stoppage victory over Shawn Porter. And a lot of people were bringing up what happened after that fight, as Errol Spence Jr. was in attendance at that fight, looked at what happened, and they had him on camera, and he shook his head and then got up and left the arena. Now, people want to talk about that as some sort of signal in reference to overall interest in that particular fight. But I wanted to be as straightforward as possible in reference to this whole situation. Now, check it out. Of course, after the fight between Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, Terence Crawford did make his announcement that he was leaving Top Rank and becoming a free agent. So, with that being said, there wouldn't have been a way for Errol Spence to even try to approach the ring for an announcement of a fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford in a Top Rank event. That wouldn't necessarily happen, because you can't really approach the ring unless if you say that there's workings going down as far as like making a fight between two opponents. And with Errol Spence that was in attendance in a Top Rank fight, it wasn't necessarily going to happen there. Just like, when Terence Crawford was in attendance, when he attended Virgil Ortiz's fights, against Gidigis Kavaliauskas, or, against his guy, Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker, or, when he was there earlier for Errol Spence Jr. Against Danny Garcia. Now, they may have been trying to build interest for this particular fight, but that's pretty much all it was. And now, with Terence Crawford being a free agent, that kind of like, pushes things to try to make this fight possible. But on the side of Errol Spence, it looks like Errol Spence is making the effort to try to make this fight with Terence Crawford. And there's like two main reasons that could be the case. Number one is pretty much, not much of a secret that Errol Spence, may be trying to get himself to 154 really soon, and that he doesn't have that much time at 147 pounds. So with that being said, he wants to try to get the biggest fight possible there at 147 pounds sooner rather than later. And the biggest fight out there is against Terence Crawford, not against Keith Thurman, but against Terence Crawford. Now, the other factor in that is due to what happened earlier this year. Now, if y'all go back to 2018, when Errol Spence and Terence Crawford met up with each other, and, they were talking smack, they were going back and forth and everything like that. And Errol Spence, let them know what the plan was going to be at that time. He was going to fight Mikey Garcia. He was going to fight Shawn Porter. He did add Keith Thurman in there at the time. And then he said Manny Pacquiao. Now, we see that he fought Mikey Garcia. We see that he fought Shawn Porter. Now, he didn't necessarily fight Keith Thurman, but he fought Danny Garcia. And he was about to fight Manny Pacquiao, but due to his injury, that fight didn't take place. And because Manny Pacquiao ended up fighting Yordenis Ugas, ended up losing, and ended up retiring, that kind of like ditched the plan there for Errol Spence Jr. from a financial sense, because he was going to be able to gain, more financial status with the fights that he was going to have. And Manny Pacquiao was going to be the coup de grace, so to speak, or whatever they, call it, as if he was able to fight Manny Pacquiao and beat Manny Pacquiao, his status would have risen pretty significantly when it comes to having fights against other fighters, whether it was going to be a Terence Crawford or Keith Thurman or anybody there in the 154-pound division, right? But since he was not able to fight Manny Pacquiao, that kind of like, halts his status there a little bit. But still, he does have that, fight that's at the end of the tunnel where he said he would kind of like try to get his business done on his end and then see what would happen there with Terence Crawford, since, people want to bring up, oh, I got to, clean my side of the street first or whatever it is. Well, in a sense, he's kind of done that with the exception of, your Dennis Ugas and, Manny Pacquiao. He wasn't able to, fight those guys. But that is, the main focus there as he's following the path that his advisor, Al Heyman, had put out for him. And so that is mainly why he looks like he's making a push to fight Terence Crawford sooner rather than later. Of course, you do have the status there with the WBC situation. Virgil Ortiz Jr. is the top-ranked contender in the WBC. He did recently decline a fight between him and David Abnesian. So we got to see what's happening with the WBC. And a lot of talk is about who would be up top in the IBF rankings, which is most likely Jaron Boots Ennis. There he could be number one. He could eventually become the mandatory contender for the IBF welterweight championship. And a lot of people feel like Errol Spence is not going to fight Jaron Boots Ennis. And you could take that for what it is or what it will. But everybody that I've talked with across the board co-signs Jaron Boots Ennis there at the welterweight division. But Errol Spence knows his situation right now. He knows what his ultimate goal is at this particular point, and it looks like he's going to work hard to try to make that happen sooner rather than later. Just wanted to get, all that was needed in reference to this particular situation with Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, and those that potentially think that, Spence might be backed in the corner because Jaron Boots Ennis is the number one contender at the IBF. Well, you got to understand, it's more about business than it is about fighters necessarily fighting each other or fighting everybody and all of that. It's much more to that. It just wanted to, give y'all the reels and try to see what y'all think about it. Y'all can say, but Errol Spence is ducking Boots Ennis. He's ducking Terence Crawford. These are professional fighters. No one really ducks anyone. It's all business. That's the reels coming from me. Y'all can share your thoughts on it. Thank y'all for taking the time to watch this video. We got more content here on the Boxing Source YouTube channel. On that note, folks, I'm out. Peace.